There was a point in my life where I had to move back in with my mom as an adult. What had happened was I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me and I wanted out of the relationship. And that in itself was had its own difficulties of loving myself enough to know that that wasn't acceptable for me. And at first, I didn't realize that. But that's not the story that I'm here to tell. The story I am here to tell is moving back in with your parents after being on your own for so many years and the feelings that it brings up. And so I wrote about this for just jot down some ideas so that I would talk about what it was that came up for me. The first one that I had to deal with was shame. It was shame that I was an adult. We had to move back in with my mom. And I'm very grateful that my mom and stepdad were able to do that for us. They didn't ask any questions. They never batted an eye, even after the length of time that we have stayed. And so the shame part of it has been the hardest thing for me to overcome. I have had to learn to love myself again. I had to accept that this was the way that it was. Let's talk about some of the main stuff. There was shame, there was guilt, there was blame, there was gratitude, there was acceptance, there was harnessing my power. So those were my main ones that I had wrote down. I have so much gratitude for my mom and stepdad because without them, I would not be where I am today. My daughter would not be where she is today. They are very fortunate to have the space in their home. And even if they didn't, they would somehow have made it happen because they knew that the situation that I was in, it was not right. It was not good. And they knew that I wanted to leave that. And financially, I couldn't do it. I was able to do my half of the share of it, even a little bit more than that, but to go out on my own to support myself, mainly with rent and the expenses of having my own place, was where I couldn't do it at the time. And so that leads into the shame and the guilt. Couldn't believe that I was in the situation that I was in. I pushed down those feelings. I didn't want to believe that it was true. I got to a real low point when I was leaving because I knew that I was going to leave. And it was to the point of that I was okay living out of my car to get away from that living situation because that was no good. That was a real low point to actually be okay living out of your car. And I know that people do, but it felt so defeating for me. I felt like I couldn't provide for me and my daughter. I couldn't provide for my family, that I allowed for this to happen and I allowed for it to happen longer than it should have. And until you're in situations, you can say what you think that you would do, but until you're in that situation, you really don't. Because when I was in that situation, I went against everything that I had said. I blamed myself. I blamed myself for somebody else cheating. And over time, I have accepted that it happened. I was able to harness back my power. I was able to take back my power. I wasn't able to love myself at that time, but I was able to at least be able to get up and leave a bad situation. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of going because you can stay in these situations for years and sometimes never even leave, knowing that you would probably be better off if you did. You are only staying because of financial reasons, or you're only staying because you have kids and you're providing a house over, your family. Like, I get it. I'm not saying that that is for everybody. And I'm very fortunate that I had family that I could go and move in with. And what I've learned from this situation is there are people willing to help you. And I'm an Enneagram 5, and I feel like I have to do it all myself and that I can't ask for help or that people aren't going to help me. And it's taken some practice on allowing people to do that for me, not that they don't want to. I was once told that if somebody is able to help you, it is a gift that they want to give you. And so being on that receiving end, I also take that into consideration of they want to do this for me, which also slightly leads me into gift giving is people feel obligated to do things or to give things. It's almost like an expectation. But I've had to change my own mindset of that. If people didn't want to give something or to help somebody, then they wouldn't. And I know that that is not the case, but that is how I've had to change my thoughts around it. So I don't give gifts if it just doesn't feel right to me. I want to give a gift because I genuinely want to give something to somebody, or I genuinely want to help somebody, because it's also sending a vibration that's different. You know, when you're kind of resentful because you have to go to this dinner that you just don't want to go to, and that energy that you're bringing with you and spreading throughout that room, that's no good either. And that's not where I want to be. And I'm not saying that this is for everybody, but it is what I have had to learn in order to put myself into a better, loving, more supportive of myself life that I am trying to get to. I've also had to learn how to love myself again. After somebody cheats on you, and it was a long time that this was happening, and I felt like garbage. I felt like, the piece of wrapping paper that's on the ground just, getting tossed away. That I wasn't lovable, that I wasn't able to be loved. And I've had to learn to re-love myself. I've had to dive down into those depths and pull myself out. And just, I've done mirror work where you look in the mirror and you just say, I love you, Lori. And it hurts. At first, sometimes you don't feel it. And then when you do, it just brings tears to my eyes, remembering the first time that I actually felt that I actually felt love for myself. And I've had a lot of work that I have done over the years of building myself back up, of loving myself for who I am, and accepting that he wasn't able to love me the way that I wanted and deserved to be loved. And that was something that I had to remind myself of often. Deep down, there's pain. There's pain inside of him. For whatever reason, he decided to do what he did. And I couldn't take that on myself. And I know they say, there's three sides to every story and what caused him to go and do that. And I've thought long and hard about that, and I've came to my own conclusions. Whether or not it's right or not, that's a different story, but it's what I have accepted. And I've also learned that I am exactly where I need to be. I am exactly where I am meant to be. I have been able to help people down here. I have been able to help my mom and stepdad. And I'm very fortunate to be where I am, to have the love and support that I have with the people around me who love me. And I'm tearing up because it just brings me so much joy knowing of the place that I have come from, of being felt like I was garbage and just tossed to the curb and had no place to go, to where I am of acceptance and love and just being exactly who I am meant to be. Because who I am is more important than trying to get somebody's approval or to try to get somebody to love me for who I'm not to them. And that's okay, because I am proud of that. I am proud of the growth that I have had, and knowing that this is who I want to be. This is where I want to be. And this is the path that has slightly been chosen, but it's the path that I needed, because without that situation and without, the being cheated on and having to move back in, I wouldn't have learned what I have learned over the years. I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't be able to help who I do help. And I wouldn't want that taken away from me.